Um, let's focus on Thurston County for a little bit. We've been talking already about them, but we have our ongoing program. And Emily, I don't know if you want to tee this up before we turn it over to staff to share about how your adventures with ORCAA and Thurston County went.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have some slides that I'll be speaking on specifically. But I can kind of start out by saying that Thurston County is the best county in the agency. I guess I'll leave with that. Thurston County is beautiful. It's a great place to live. I've grown up in Thurston County my whole life, born and raised here, aside from a short stint of being in the military and leaving, coming right back because once again, it's the best county in the region. So I'll just start off with that, but I have some words to share on a couple of slides in. So thanks.
I'll just, while we're starting on the slides, I'll just point out that Thurston County is the last of our 6 counties that we're doing this focus on. We started the exercise last February, so just over a year ago in Jefferson County. So, but the part of the board that hasn't been represented yet on these conversations is Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater. So I think the next step in rectifying that is to get a meeting scheduled with Ryan, with Paul, and with Joan to talk about and how do we want to represent, what do we want to do in terms of presentation. And I think that's, we've got some ideas, but I think the next step is scheduling. So look for an email from either Debbie or myself in the next week or so to get a meeting scheduled. So back to Thurston County. So then I think Dan, why don't you go to the next slide, and why don't you, and I think you were going to mention a few things before handing it back to Emily. And you're muted, Dan, if you're talking.
Sorry about that. Zoom master doesn't know how to use Zoom. So Thurston County is the largest county in our jurisdiction, with about 309,000 people last year. Looking at the 10-year average for the census, it was one of the fastest growing counties over that time. I think all the counties have kind of slowed down at this point. We haven't added a lot of people in the last couple of years, but Thurston County is also one of the oldest established human sites in the state. We've had archaeological studies finding settlements dating back to 800 BC, and it was named for the first congressional delegate from the Oregon Territory. So I'm going to let Emily now tell you everything I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that short preview. So I also was going to speak a little bit about who Thurston County was named after, which you have on your slide, but just to kind of add to that. So the county was named after Dr. Samuel R. Thurston. He was a lawyer and a politician who served as the first delegate from Oregon Territory to the U.S. Congress in the 1840s. And when Washington was still part of the Oregon Territory, Thurston played a role in advocating for territorial governance. And Thurston County was officially created in 1852 and named in his honor. He also played a controversial role in federal land policy affecting indigenous communities, which I thought was an interesting point to raise. So also a little bit about who the city of Lacey was named after. The city of Lacey, shout out to Ryan, is named after O.C. Lacey, who was an early railroad investor and businessman in this region. And railroad development in the late 1800s helped drive population growth and economic development in the area. So I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Lacey for, even though you'll hear more from them, it sounds like in the future. Another fun fact is wooden money was once used, actually now twice used in Tenino, once during the Great Depression and another time during COVID. So during the Great Depression in 1931, when the local bank failed and cash became unavailable, the city of Tenino actually issued temporary currency printed on thin slices of wood veneer, and it was just known as Tenino wooden money. So some people might know that, some people might not. But local businesses in Tenino actually accepted this currency as payment, which helped keep the local economy functioning during that banking crisis. And sometimes the city actually still produces commemorative wooden money for festivals and special events. And the Smithsonian Museum in Washington DC actually has the wooden money from Tenino on display, which is very cool. So I thought that was a really interesting fact. And then some people might know about the Mima mounds or Mima mounds, depending on who you're asking. These unusual mounds in the Natural Area Preserve have been puzzling to scientists for more than 100 years. There are quite a few theories about what's going on here, but the leading modern theory is that they were formed by centuries of soil movement caused by the beloved Mazama pocket gophers. Though other theories have included earthquakes, glacial activity, and flooding, but we have no idea which one's correct. So that's very interesting and kind of fun. If you haven't been out there to see them, they almost look like you're on a different planet, like an alien invasion happened. It's very bizarre. I wish I would have provided a photo to put on the slides, but that's a pretty fun fact about Thurston County. And then let's see, do I want to hit on others? I think I'll just hit on one more. So the first American settlement on the Puget Sound actually started in Thurston County, and in 1845, settlers led by Michael T. Simmons established their settlement at Tumwater Falls, and that settlement became the city of Tumwater. And it's widely considered the first permanent American settlement on the Puget Sound and played a key role in the early development of Washington Territory. So that's all I've got, although I could go on and on, but those are the highlights.
All right. I think we're on to Odell. Oops.
Oh,
Let me get into there. Oops. Got jumping again.
so just a little preview. That was our old air monitoring shelter out at Mountain View Elementary in Lacey. We've been monitoring in Lacey since the 80s. So there has been a long history of air monitoring in Thurston County. Next slide. And you can see here going back to 1970. So the different colors represent different pollutants that we've monitored, and then the locations are down on the side. So we started off monitoring at the Lacey Fire Station in 1970. That was with total suspended particulate, which is just any solid particles that stay in the air and don't fall down right away. Eventually they come down, but don't fall down right away. And then in the 80s, we moved on to PM10, or what they called inhalable. And so that's any particle that is 10 micrometers or less in diameter. And so those were the ones, particles that stayed longer in the air. And also they found to be able to, when you breathe in, they actually penetrate and get into your system. And then in light blue, in the 90s, they reduced that even further and said, well, the PM 2.5, which is any particle less than 2.5 micrometers, is really what's driving the health concern. And so we kind of went from total suspended to PM10 to PM 2.5, which is what we're monitoring today. And you can see there at that Lacey Mountain View, we started monitoring in 1984, and we have continued up until today, and we've expanded the number of pollutants that we monitor at that site. In addition to pollutants, we also monitor weather, wind, and temperature there as well. So the red box I have highlighted is our years that we were in non-attainment for PM10. So they took the data that we were monitoring in the late 80s, and in 1990, EPA declared us to be in non-attainment for PM10. So if you go to the next slide, Dan.
And by us, you mean a portion of
Thurston County was, and yes, by us, I mean Thurston County, which we are focusing on today.
But just a portion of Thurston County, right? It wasn't the entire county.
Right, and I'm not quite sure how that works as far as like where specifically or how far the monitor reaches as far as like, but I know Pierce County was also around the same time declared in non-attainment, so portions of Pierce County as well. So the non-attainment years in 1990, EPA declares that Thurston County, portions of Thurston County are in non-attainment for PM10. I've shown this plot here, and this is for PM10, the AQI, which has not changed since then. The NAAQS has not changed. I'm sorry, the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for PM10 has not changed. So the AQI has also not changed. And that the AQI is the air quality index. So that just determines where we are on the health spectrum. So those data are from 1985 up to 1990, so those are the data that were used to declare us a non-attainment. And I just wanted to highlight these maximum daily averages that you see up there in the orange at 200 micrograms per meter cubed. The national ambient air quality standard for the day is 150 for PM10, which is really high. It's only 35 for PM 2.5. And one thing I want to point out is that when you are talking about smoke, over 90% of the PM10 is PM 2.5. And so we have data from that. So when we say, oh yeah, it's only PM10, you got to remember that's mostly PM 2.5 in those numbers. So the air quality was really, really bad in the winter. And then I've just blown that up to show you in that winter of 1989 to 1990. I've expanded that out. That's the daily PM 2.5 AQI for that time period there. And you can see that a lot of reds show up, and that's the 55 to 150 microgram per meter cubed. So just because that was the one daily maximum, there were several days that were in there. So in 2000, so we were declared a non-attainment in 1990. It took us 10 years of monitoring and development to submit a PM10 maintenance plan to EPA. In 2000, EPA approved that maintenance plan. And we worked really hard to bring our air quality into attainment. In 2013, we were able to submit an updated maintenance plan and fulfill the second 10-year planning requirement. So there's the 10 years you have to bring yourself into an attainment, and then you have another 10 years of reporting to show that you have continued to remain in attainment. And in 2020, ORCAA finally submitted the final report for the Thurston County PM10 20-year maintenance plan. We don't have to submit any more reports, and we are now in attainment for PM10. Okay, so next slide. That's the non-attainment years. This is a full history for daily PM 2.5 AQI from 2001 to 2025. You can see that over the years going down, 2001's at the top, you move down to 2025 to the bottom, and you can see that we did have some very big problem spots in the early aughts in the winter months, mostly due to residential heating with wood stoves, but we've really brought that down. And then in 2017, you start to see summertime, real bad hotspots pop up, and that is due to wildfire smoke intrusions into the region, sometimes for several days at a time, which we didn't used to see as much. And so that is what I have for that slide, and I think that is all I have.
And I'm going to jump back. I want you to just note the change in, especially the winter months from October through January, from about 2010 down. Notice how much the yellow days have compressed down. They're not as prevalent as the years go on. Most of that impact came from indoor burning, wood stove use. Odell mentioned the wildfire events. Outdoor burning is the other smoke issue. We've talked about that earlier today. But I want to focus right now on the wood stove replacement. So since 2012, actually early 2000 or late 2011, we've had some form of wood stove replacement program in the cities and urban growth areas of Thurston County. That's where it started. In Basically, we got state funding to provide incentives for people to take out old uncertified wood stoves and replace them with cleaner heat. Initially, that included cleaner burning wood stoves. We changed to an emphasis on replacement with heat pumps and zero emission devices in 2017, I believe. And then by 2019, we were able to expand this state or countywide. And for this current season, we're actually expanded it region-wide to all of our counties. But we've replaced a great number of wood stoves in Thurston County. Starting in 2012, you can see about 70, and then that kind of fluctuated for a few years. And then we got a more aggressive grant in that 2019 where we could apply it to the entire county instead of just the cities. and had a big uptick in participation. And you can see we also were able to expand that into the other counties with at least the wood stove recycling program. So, total of 840 stoves have been removed from Thurston County since 2011, 2012 winter. That is the equivalent of a reduction of about 65 tons of PM pollution per year. So that's a lot of smoke. Think about a particulate matter that's 10 microns or 2.5 microns in size. It takes a lot of that to get up to 65 tons.
It's 11 o'clock.
Moving on, outdoor burning is the other issue. Residential burning is allowed. It is required with a permit in Thurston County, only county that a permit is required by ORCAA. The permit was implemented in 2001, 2002 timeframe, as we've noted. We added it to the rules, the ORCAA rules in 2008. That because initially that permit was unenforceable. It wasn't embedded in anybody's rules. It was just a paper permit that didn't have any backing in rules. So at the request of the Thurston Outdoor Burn Committee, which Chief Van Camp helped form in 2001, we did add it to the rules so that if somebody burns without a permit, it was actually an enforceable infraction to not have a permit in Thurston County. Currently, we're seeing about 3,000 of those permits issued per burn season in Thurston County. We're at over 2,000 right now, and during the spring, we tend to see a huge uptick in burning permit applications. And then we also manage land clearing permits, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike at this time.
Okay, we'll get into, we also, before I get into that, I just want to mention of those 2,000 roughly permits we've had so far for residential, roughly 40 of them were in the UGA, and that's one of the benefits of the program is we saw those, we could send them a notice saying, hey, don't burn there. So it's a good way to eliminate at least 40 to 50, probably 60 a year or so, people who want to burn in the UGA that's illegal. We can let them know instead, so they don't get in trouble and that they don't bother their neighbors with the smoke. So that's another benefit of that notification program. And we've got the numbers to show how many come to us, not knowing that they're in a UGA and can't burn. So from that, we also do land clearing burn permits. We've gotten to date somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to say it's somewhere about 95 to date. And our burn season, if you don't know, is usually somewhere in October through the through July, 1st of July. It can vary slightly based on how dry things are. We also do agriculture burns. They require a permit. We get very few of those. We've only got 2 so far, usually like an orchard or cranberry bogs. They want to burn their stuff. They'll have to get an ag burn. And then we actually do ceremonial burn permits and training fire burn permits for the fire departments. We get a few of those. So that's all those burn programs are given to us through the RCW and following the rules. So that's what we will do for the land clearing. The picture here, of course, would be the size of a land clearing, 20 feet, but that's prohibited materials there, so don't use that as an example. That is somebody who's burning a bunch of lumber, which you cannot burn. So
garbage in there.
Yeah, and a lot of PM 2.5 in that one, I bet, and PM 10. So
And,
the next
and
one,
that fire actually is part of our designated illegal burn Hall of Fame. That was a $14,915 NOV.
okay, so yeah, so for, a lot of this map, well, next slide, sorry. I think we went over this in the earlier thing, so I won't spend any time on it. Just the Thurston County burning, everything but the city limits and the UGA of Grand Mound, you can have residential and land clearing burning in. I'll just keep it as that. And then the next slide, we're getting into the Thurston County asbestos and demolition programs. I've talked about this on all the different counties. This is kind of a thing that gets forgotten sometimes by the citizens. Thurston County, 200, as you can see, over asbestos notifications, 150. That's current. I mean, that's just Thurston County alone. as earlier mentioned, we had over 300 in 6 county-wide, so of course, more density here, more notifications. We want to make sure that anytime anybody is doing a remodel, they should be, if they have asbestos material or potential asbestos material, they should be checking that. And that would be simple sampling. Homeowners can do it themselves if they want. Commercial people have to hire out a certified tester. And if they have asbestos, then they need to get a notification from us. And we will give them the education on how to remove it properly. If it's a homeowner, they can remove it themselves if they are doing a renovation or demolition. And through ORCAA and L&I rules, if it's a commercial building, you have to get a contractor to do it. You cannot, and that's licensed in asbestos. So that's, asbestos is a key thing to watch because it can be stuff people don't realize, cement siding and fiber boards and roofing and window putty, it's all over there. So our program with the notification is meeting federal rules, but it's really important also for the education. If they don't get a notification, we don't know how to educate them. So we don't know they're there and existing. So we do a lot to educate them, the public, and hopefully we can reduce the exposure rate. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the sources. These are the ones we inspect and our engineers do the permit writing on. And we have, as you can see again, 258 registered sources. 2 AOPs out of the 11 that we currently have active. AOPs are the Title V, the big, large ones. It's a picture of the can company right there, Crown Cork and Seal, lots of aluminum cans. And then a step right underneath there, that limit, the synthetic miners, just briefly, those could be AOPs titled, but they voluntarily restrict their manufacturing so they don't go into the pollution levels that put them into an AOP. Because there's a whole lot of extra cost and regs if you go into the AOP. So that's what the synthetic miners are. They basically could be one if they didn't restrict their own production. 176 inspections we did in Thurston County alone. Now that's, in this case, we didn't separate out the city, so it's all sources in Thurston County, even in the cities. 176 of them that we did. Tag that on with the inspectors and engineers, what great work they do, because they also got 6 counties, and this is just one county, and we don't, we got to go all over the place. So emission inventory, every county, I've mentioned how many emission inventory sources we have. That basically is just if you're at the upper level of the AOP, synthetic miners, and some of the other large ones that are not quite synthetic miners. Each year, our engineers gather the emissions that they emit, the total, and then we compile a report that goes to ecology. And so there's a statewide emission inventory for these pollutants. So they do it from 24 sources in Thurston County. And last year, the engineers reviewed and issued 20 notice of construction. So that's going to be for either new facilities that are, whether it's a paint booth or a lumber mill or any, as we'll see later, a galvanized manufacturing company. If they emit something that we regulate, they have to get a permit. Some of them are after the fact. People have put it in without knowing that they needed a permit, and then we do it. But 20 of them for the last year, and we keep getting them. We've got several this year also. Notice of intents, as it says, mostly gas stations. Those are basically small, lightweight permits. They are ones that we kind of have a form. It's in our rules, do A, B, and C according to our rules. Then all you just gotta do is tell us that you are going to do that. You don't need to go through a full-fledged permit. And so you'll still be registered with us, but because some of the stuff is the same for every company, we put it in our rule, and you can just do an intent to build and do that. So we have 5 of those. Next slide, please, Dan. To wrap this up, this is the manufacturing, galvanized manufacturing thing I was referring to. It is what I want to say, about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
February 6th.
Oh, there you go. I should have looked at the slide. I was trying not to. That's time flies. I'm having so much fun in ORCAA. Time flies. So anyway, February 6th, Emily was out there. I think AJ, her aide, was out there. We had several, 2 engineers out there. Abby Roberts, Jennifer DeMay, Debbie went out there, Debbie Moody, our operation manager, Rob Weiland was the lead. And you can, and then the two people at the company, you can see them in the picture. You've got to recognize BJ, he's the owner, and then, I don't have the list. I thought I had the name of Doug Nelson's the owner, I'm sorry, and BJ's the plant, engineer lead operator, and those are the two on the right-hand side of the picture. So it's a facility that basically takes, used to do nuts and bolts, and I think they're doing bigger things now, and they will clean them and dip them into a galvanized tank, and that's where you get your galvanized nuts and bolts and other bigger equipment, and it's an interesting process, and I think it was good to have Commissioner Klaus out there and also her assistant, and anytime any of you would like to see any of these facilities that we go to, let us know, and we'll try to arrange a visit while we do an inspection. Most of them are welcoming and very good very good at telling you what they do and why they do it, and so I just want to continue that invite, that just let us know, get a hold of me, and I will, work it with Rob, and we can show you what we do, because we do a variety of different things. I mean, this one is a unique, I don't think we have another facility like this in our 6 counties. So, very unique processes, and the can company you saw earlier were thousands and thousands of cans, millions of cans. Very unique, and again, a lot of them would be happy to show their process, and we'd be happy to show you what we do as compliance if you're interested. And that will be all from our end. I think we have questions. Dan, the next slide, questions and discussions.
Or I don't know if Emily, if you have anything to add to your experience during the inspection?
I had a really good time. I know that it looks like we're a little over time on the agenda, if I'm not mistaken, so I want to be quick, but I really enjoyed it. As you can see, I was enthralled in this picture, taking videos of what they were doing. And yeah, it was really good to see not only the operations there, but how they're monitoring or managing the air, pollutants, in the bag outside. They showed us, kind of how that works and some of their, precautionary steps that they take to ensure that they're, being mindful of emissions and, air pollutants. And I just learned a lot. So it was really fun. And, I always enjoy tours that I get to go on with ORCAA. So watching the process of an inspection too was something I haven't seen, and so that was really exciting to kind of see how ORCAA operates in the field as well.
Great. Thank you, Emily.